CBS News is focusing on climate ahead of Earth Day on Thursday. World leaders will be doing so as well. Many will join President Biden for a virtual summit focusing on climate. Leaders from 40 nations are invited to the two-day virtual event. The summit will focus primarily on reducing greenhouse emissions. Notably, none of the leaders are from Central America. The president has said migrants at the southern border are fleeing the effects of climate change in their home countries. The nation remains split on America's role in battling global warming. A new CBS News poll says just under half of Americans believe the U.S. should take the lead on international climate efforts. About a third think the U.S. should only take part if other countries do. 20% believe the U.S. should not participate. CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, joins me now from Westchester County, New York, to break down these numbers. Hi, Anthony. Great to see you. So, big picture here. We know scientists agree human activity is the main driver of climate change. Do Americans also see it that way? And how urgent is the need to address this to them?
Hey, Tanya, great to talk to you. So when you're looking at public opinion on climate change, you want to break it down into two parts. The first is what can be done, and then the other, often a lot of disagreements on what should be done. So let me talk about the first one of those. You mentioned the science, and you do find that most people do know that human activity contributes to climate change. If you look at that question, when you add up the people who think it's exclusively human activity, plus a combination of human and other natural patterns, you do get a sizable majority, more than 7 in 10 people. So that's the human contribution as people see it. And then what do? Well, people say that right now is the time. There's an urgency to start taking action. That's a majority. Plus you add in another 11% who say it has to happen in the next few years. And that is a more sizable majority who really do express a certain urgency to have people, to have governments, to even themselves start or continue taking action. Tanya.
So put this into context for us, Anthony. After more than a year of the pandemic, in which we saw some of the effects of climate change abate a little bit, simply because people weren't out and about as much, and I'm sure other reasons. But do people think that the pandemic had any impact on the climate?
Yeah, great question. And we looked at that, and a couple of things. One, in context of other potential threats from the natural world, you see that naturally that viruses and pandemics are foremost on people's minds, understandably saying they're very concerned about it. But climate change is right behind that at 44% compared to the 50% very concerned about viruses and pandemics. So it still remains up there despite, as you said, that year of pandemic. And then the other part of it is, yes, people acknowledge or believe that all the lockdowns, people driving less, et cetera, that probably helped to some degree against climate change. But I would add back to that earlier finding, the urgency is still there, Tanya.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the economic impact. Because as part of his infrastructure plan, President Biden is including about $175 billion for electric vehicles and $100 billion to update the country's electric grid to clean energy sources. So where do Americans stand on the potential economic impacts of climate change? Do they believe that this kind of spending is necessary?
So this is so important because when you look back at years of polling on climate change and the environment, you often find this straight up trade-off. They're asked, do they want to protect the environment or preserve jobs? But the arguments today seem to center, as you note, around the idea of can protecting the environment be good for the economy and good for jobs? So we start exploring that a little bit. Overall, big picture, can efforts to stop climate change help the economy? You've got 45% on that, but that outpaces those who say that those efforts will hurt the economy. Now, there's some partisanship wrapped up in this. We'll talk about that in a moment, a bit about the kinds of jobs people are involved in. But there's really two ways to look at this. On one hand, you've got that larger number saying that things help, not quite a majority coalition, though. So where people say that those two things are separate, that might be the place to watch. That might be where the arguments are going to start being made as people try to sell the idea that helping the environment is good economics. And then you dive down a little bit to the pocketbook, which is always important for people. For people like you, can government efforts to help climate change, well, help economically, 32, hurt economically, slightly more, 34, and won't impact you another third. So back to that idea of being split that you mentioned at the top there, Tanya, there still is this difference, and a lot of that has to do with whether or not people would do things themselves, like buying electric cars, for example. Well, we asked if people would buy electric cars, and again, another split. 30% say they'd consider it, 33% say they might, and another third would not outright. Tanya.
Right. That is just what I was going to ask you about the cars, because we know Americans love their cars. And you do have that data that reveals how they feel about them. So specifically on energy, then, is there concern about spending on renewable resources? We know the energy business in this country is a huge business, but renewable resources seem to be the future. So what do people feel about that?
Well, that's a great question, and I'll show you this slide. We asked people, is it realistic to think that the U.S. could move to all renewable energy power by, in this case, 2035? And there, people aren't quite sold on that. You've got a third saying it's realistic, but more saying, no, that it is unrealistic. And in a similar vein, again, we get to particulars, the kinds of industries that people work in. Is it realistic, people wonder, to take oil and gas jobs and transition those folks? Can they transition into renewable energy jobs? And there again, that's split. 39% saying they think it's realistic, but almost as many, really as many, saying that that is unrealistic. So again, and we talk about these arguments, these sales of can you transition and can you get public opinion behind the idea that folks can transition, and there again, we see a lot of things could still move, a lot of things could still change, Tanya.
Right, but overall, would you say that this sort of represents has been a change in Americans' perception, number one, not just of climate change, but of the possibilities that fighting it could have some economic benefits?
Yes, and that's a big part of the way you set up this structure, the choices for people. You can clearly see from this data that not everybody is looking at straight trade-off between the environment or fighting climate change and jobs and the economy. You do see this certain receptivity to the idea that the two could be together, that you could, have good economics come from fighting climate change. It's not everybody, and again, there are partisan breaks in this. You see some who are concerned about the costs. You see some who are concerned about jobs in particular, particularly in fossil fuels and oil and gas industries. But then again, you also see, you see a lot of partisanship in that, which brings it back to the idea that a lot of times people look to their leaders for cues about how to interpret things and how to sort of project things, that if they're not necessarily economists or scientists, how do they interpret it? And that's where the politics often comes in, Tanya.
Anthony Salvanto, thank you so much for diving into those numbers with us. Always a pleasure chatting with you.